Hello everyone, my name is Alan Jones Peronio, a second-year computer engineering student. Today, I'm presenting my numerical methods and matrix operations desktop application built entirely in Python using tkinter for the interface and Visual Studio Code as my IDE. The project follows a modular structure. The main.py file is the entry point. It builds the window and handles tab switching. The matrix GUI.py file manages the matrix operation stubs. It generates the dynamic input grids for matrix A and matrix B, handles the operation buttons, and displays the formatted results in the output panel on the right. Root GUI.py manages the root finding tab. It builds the input sidebar where the user types the equation, selects a method, and sets the bounds and tolerance. It also renders the iteration table and the live graph that appears after each computation. The theme.py is a file I created to centralize all colors, fonts, and reusable widgets like the style buttons and error pop-ups, so the entire app has a consistent visual style controlled from one place. Anytime a GUI file needs a button or needs to show an error, it just imports from theme.py instead of rewriting that code. The actual math lives in separate files inside the methods folder, which contains bisection.py, falseposition.py, incremental.py, newtonraphson.py, and second.py, and the matrix methods folder, which contains addition.py, adjoint.py, determinant.py, equations.py, inverse.py, multiplication.py, power.py, and transpose.py. All of these are completely isolated from the interface code. This is called separation of concerns. The math files have no idea the GUI even exists. They just receive inputs and return results. Before the live demo, here is a quick visual summary of how those files connect and work together. And now let's run the Python file. As you can see, switching between the two modules is instant, just one click on the navigation bar. I will be using x raised to the power of 2 minus 2 to demonstrate all 5 methods. The goal is to find the square root of 2, which is approximately 1.414. First is the incremental search. Notice that this method only requires Excel and a step size, so the X2 input is disabled. I set the tolerance to 0.001 and the DX or the step size into 0.2 and the XL to 0. And then click Compute System. The incremental search walks forward along the function in equal steps until it detects a sign change, which tells us if a root is nearby. Think of it as the scout. It doesn't refine the answer itself, it locates where to look. Looking at the iteration table, the columns are the iteration number, XL, which is the current starting point, delta X, which is the step size, XU, which is the next point, FXL, and FXU, which are the function values at those points, their product, FXL, multiplied by FXU, and the remark column. The remarks tells us exactly what the method decided each iteration. When the product is greater than 0, the remark says, go to next interval, meaning no sign change was found, so the method moves forward. When the product is less than 0, the remark says, revert back to Excel and consider smaller interval, meaning a sign change was detected. The method reverts and cuts the step size in half to refine the location of the root. After the computation, the graph automatically updates to plot the function curve. A dotted horizontal line at y is equals to 0, representing the x-axis, and a red dot marking the exact location of the root giving an immediate visual confirmation that the answer is correct. Next, bisection. This one requires both bounds, so I set XL to 0, XU to 2, and a tolerance of 0.001. It confirms the sign change exists between these two bounds, then repeatedly cuts the interval in half until it closes in on the roots. It is slow but guaranteed to converge as long as the sign change exists. The table shows XL and XU as the current bounds, XR as the midpoint guess, FXL and FXR as the function values at those points, EA, which is the approximate relative error showing how much the estimate changed from the last iteration, the product of FXL times FXR, and lastly, the remark column. The remark tells us which half contains the root. When the product is less than 0, the remark says first subinterval, meaning the root is in the left half, so XU is replaced by XR. When the product is greater than 0, the remark says second subinterval, meaning the root is in the right half, so XL is replaced by XR. If the method lands exactly on the root, the remark says exact root, and the method stops immediately. We stop when EA drops below 0.001. The graph updates again, showing the curve and the red dot confirming the root at approximately 1.414. Next is false position. This also requires both bounds, so I set XL to 0 and XU to 2, and a tolerance of 0.001. Instead of always taking the exact midpoint like bisection, it uses linear interpolation to make a smarter, weighted guess each time, which usually means it converges faster. The table columns are iteration, XL, XU, XR, the approximate error EA, FXL, FXU, FXR, and the product of FXL multiplied by FXR. Unlike bisection, there is no remark column. The sign of FXL multiplied by FXR still drives the logic internally, but what you can observe directly from the table is how XL and XU update each iteration as the method closes in on the root. When the product is negative, XU is replaced by XR. When the product is positive, XL is replaced by XR. We stop when EA drops below 0.001. As you can see in the FXL times FXR column, all values are positive. This means the remark XR is equals to XL was applied every iteration. So XL was continuously replaced by XR, pushing the left bound closer and closer to the root from the left side until EA dropped below 0.001. The graph updates again, confirming the root at approximately 1.414 with the red dot on the curve. Now, Newton-Raphson. Notice that X2 is disabled here because this method only needs a single initial guess. I set the initial guess to 1 and a tolerance of 0.001. It uses the slope, the derivative of the function at each point, to jump directly towards the root. The table columns are the iteration number, xi, which is the current guess, ea, the approximate error, fxi, the function value at that guess, and f prime xi, the derivative at that point. Notice the first row has no error value. That is because error requires a previous iteration to compare against. Each new guess is computed as xi minus fxi divided by f prime xi. We stop when ea drops below 0.001. Watch how few iterations it needs compared to the previous methods. The graph updates again and the red dot confirms the root at approximately 1.414. And finally, the second method. I set XL to 1, the XU is equals to 2, and a tolerance of 0.001. Similar speed to Newton-Raphson, but instead of computing the actual derivative, it approximates it using 2 points, making it more flexible since no calculus is required. The table columns are iteration number, xi minus 1, and xi as the two current points, xi plus 1 as the new estimate, EA, the approximate error, and fxi minus 1 and fxi plus 1 as the function values at each point. Like Newton-Raphson, the first iteration has no error value. Again, because there is no previous xi plus 1 to compare against yet, the new estimate xi plus 1 is calculated by drawing a second line through the two current points, and those 2 points then shift forward each iteration until EA drops below 0.001. The graph updates one final time with the red dot again confirming the root at approximately 1.414. Now for the project requirements, for a linear equation, I use 2 times x minus 4, with xl is equals to 0, xu is equals to 5, and a tolerance of 0.001. The program converges to a root of 1.999989, which is essentially 2.0, in 18 iterations. This confirms that the program handles linear equations accurately, converging very close to the exact answer within our set tolerance. The graph shows a straight line crossing the x-axis at approximately 2.0. For a binomial equation, I use x raised to the power of 2 minus 9, which has 2 roots. To find the positive root, I set xl is equals to 0 and xu is equals to 5, and a tolerance of 0.001. Result is 3.0, confirmed by the red dot on the graph. To find the negative root, I set xl is equals to negative 5, xu is equals to 0, and a tolerance of 0.001. Result is negative 3.0. Again, confirmed by the red dot. This demonstrates the program's flexibility in isolating specific roots simply by adjusting the search interval. Finally, for multiple roots, I use x minus 1 times x minus 2 times x minus 3. Running incremental search with xl is equals to 0.5, a step size of 0.1, and a tolerance of 0.001. The program successfully finds the first root at 1.0. And looking at the graph, you can clearly see the curve crossing the x-axis 3 times, at 1, 2, and 3. This is where the graphing feature becomes especially useful, giving visual confirmation that all 3 roots exist and were correctly identified. Now we move to the matrix operations module. One of the key features of this software is its dynamic scalability. The program allows user to define custom matrix dimensions, such as 3x3 or even 4x4. For today's demonstration, however, I will switch back to a 2x2 matrix to make the mathematical verification easy to follow. I will input row 1 as 4 and 7 and row 2 as 2 and 6. When I click the determinant, the program applies the formula AD minus BC for this matrix that is 4 times 6 minus 7 times 2, giving us a result of 10. This confirms the matrix is non-singular and therefore has an inverse. Next is the inverse. The program computes the reciprocal matrix using numpy's linog.inv. I also added a validation guard here. If you try to invert a matrix with a determinant of 0, which is called a singular matrix, the app catches that and displays a clear error message instead of crashing. For our matrix, the result is 0.6 and negative 0.7, negative 0.2, and 0.4. Then the transpose. This operation instantly swaps the rows and columns of the matrix. What was row 1 becomes column 1, and what was row 2 becomes column 2. The adjoint performs the cofactor transformation. In the code, the adjoint is computed as the determinant multiplied by the inverse. On matrix power, I set the exponent k to 2, which means the program raises matrix A to the power of 2 using NumPy's matrix power function. This is useful for analyzing systems that evolve over time. I also tried the power of 3. For dual matrix operations, I will set matrix E to 1 and 3, 4 and 2, and matrix B to 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. For addition, the program performs an element-wise sum. Each element A is added to the corresponding element P. For these matrices, that gives us a result of 2, 5, 7, and 6. The app validates that both matrices have identical dimensions before computing. For multiplication, the program uses the dot product row by column rule. The first element is 1 times 1 plus 3 times 3 equals to 10. The second is 1 times 2 plus 3 times 4 is equals to 14. The third is 4 times 1 plus 2 times 3 is equals to 10. And the fourth is 4 times 2 plus 2 times 4 is equals to 16. This results in answer 10, 14, 10, and 16. The program verifies the number of columns in matrix A matches the number of rows in matrix B before executing, ensuring mathematical consistency. The highlight of the matrix module is the system solver. For this demonstration, I have set matrix A to a 2 by 3 layout, which represents an augmented matrix. This is a standard engineering format where the first two columns represent the coefficients of our variables x and y, and the final column represents the constants. By using this augmented approach, matrix B is left empty, as the constants are already embedded within matrix A. When I click Solve System AX is equals to B, the program separates these components and passes them to NumPy's linalg.solve function. It also performs a pre-calculation check on the determinant. If it's 0, the app informs the user that no unique solution exists. For our system, it instantly reveals the solution. X is equals to 2 or the x1, and y is equals to 3, which is the x2. Looking at the backend in Visual Studio Code, there's this technical feature that ensures the program's reliability, the equation parser. Using regular expression, my parse equation function makes the tool user-proof. It automatically adds multiplication signs for terms like 2x, converts cards to Python's power operator, and maps constants like pi and Euler's number to their correct values. It also safely maps human math names like ln and etc. to the Python math library. In summary, this application provides a comprehensive toolkit for numerical methods and linear algebra. By organizing the code across main.py, root.gui.py, matrix.gui.py, and theme.py, I have followed industry standard separation of concerns. We have successfully met all project requirements. 5 root finding algorithms tested with linear and binomial equations, a scalable matrix capable of complex dual operations and system solving. Third, a modern responsive UI designed with computer engineering principles in mind. This modular design ensures the application is accurate, stable, and ready for future expansion into more complex numerical analysis. Once again, I am Alan Jones Peronio, and thank you for watching this demonstration of my work.